Hey, what is up guys? Jay Burton here. What if I told you that you could increase the dungeon completion bonus by 15% every time? You know, that nice fat chunk of experience for finishing a dungeon? Well, in this video, I'm going to explain how, and I'm also going to give you guys an update on my BFA 1 to 120 leveling guide, as many of you keep eagerly asking when is it going to come out, so we'll get into that. So stay tuned. Now before we talk about the leveling item, I first need to talk about the leveling nerf that Blizzard did in patch 8.0 that incidentally buffed up this leveling item. If any of you have watched my leveling guides, you know that I favor the dungeon carry method for leveling. This is when you have a high level character carry a low level character through a dungeon, and then they would get a lot of experience simply with the dungeon completion reward. You know, that fat chunk. This is especially amazing for getting through the level 60 to 80 bracket, as it's the most boring and slowest leveling bracket of all. Absolutely terrible. Spamming Hellfire Ramparts was a way to get through this. You'd have your ult get carried in Hellfire Ramparts from 60 to 74, then you'd go run yourself through Karazhan just farming trash up to level 81, and then you're out of the bracket really quickly. Now you guys have to drudge through it very slowly. Now Blizzard did not like the dungeon carry method, and they specifically wanted to remove it from leveling. And how they did it was actually pretty clever. I'm not saying I like the nerf, but it was really clever on how they got rid of it. They made it to where when you complete the dungeon completion bonus is added to the final boss. So instead of receiving experience from the final boss and getting the completion, it's now just one reward. So how is that a nerf? Well, if you're queuing with random dungeon finder, you're not even going to notice this. This won't affect you at all. However, if you have a high level character carrying you through a dungeon, this is a massive nerf. You know how when you have a high level character kill a mob for you, you'd only get like 5% of the experience from the mob? That's how it works in dungeons. Same thing with the last boss. So because the dungeon completion bonus is added into the last boss, the high level character makes it to where you only receive 5% of the dungeon completion bonus, which completely destroys that leveling method. So it was a pretty smart nerf on their part. I'm not happy with it, but it was a good idea. So what is the buff? What item am I talking about that can be abused and benefit from these nerfs? Well, I actually mentioned this item in a video about 2 months ago for leveling in BFA, but with a different use. And the item is the Battle Standard of Coordination. This 10-minute cooldown item allows you to receive 15% more experience for mobs when you drop it. And since Blizzard had combined the dungeon completion bonus inside the last boss's experience, that means you will now get 15% more experience from the dungeon completion bonus every single time. The only trick is actually remembering to drop it on the boss fight. So how do you get the Battle Standard of Coordination? The Battle Standard of Coordination came out quite a few expansions ago, and it's nearly forgotten. To be able to purchase this item from the guild vendor, you must be in a guild that has the achievement A Daily Routine, which is completed by getting 15,000 dailies finished, and then you have to be honored with the guild to buy it. A simple and easy way to obtain this on a brand new character is to immediately search for guilds in the guild finder, unless one of your characters is already in a guild with that item unlocked, and look for one of the guilds that have like over 800 members. These are almost guaranteed to have it unlocked. So type /who, enter the guild name, and whisper roughly 3 to 4 people saying something like, "Hiya, could my alt get an invite to the guild, smiley face?" And this makes it sound like your main is in the guild, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I'll get your alt in here." But usually in these large guilds, they don't care anyways, and most people can just invite. So just whisper 3 to 4, if you don't get an invite, maybe whisper a few more, or try a different guild. It doesn't take long at all. So now that you're in a guild with it unlocked, your next goal is to reach Honored by level 15, because level 15 is when you can queue for dungeons. The easiest way is to log on to one of your characters who are exalted with the guild that they're in, and buy the guild tabard from the guild vendor, and then send it to your alt, because remember it's account bound, and then just equip it. The tabard gives you a 100% increased guild rep from questing, so it'll be so easy to get Honored before level 15. So just get that tabard. The standard does require 300 gold to buy, so you'll probably have to send a little bit of gold to your character to buy it, but that's not a big deal. Especially in the expansion wherein 300 gold is nothing. Now, one thing to note is that you can actually leave the guild after you buy it, but in order to actually use the standard, you have to be friendly in the guild that you're currently in. So you can join a new guild or join your friend's guild, whatever. Just keep that tabard so you can get friendly. It won't take long at all. And there you have it. You've got the battle standard now. Remember, drop it on every single last boss of every single dungeon you do, and you'll get a huge amount of dungeon completion award. It'll be amazing, and you're going to love it, and you're going to dungeon spam like crazy. Yes, some people don't like dungeon spam, but this is a great way of leveling. This also works through Pandaria, WOD, Legion, BFA, everything with the dungeon. You will get a huge amount of experience for it. You just remember to drop it on every single boss and you will not regret it. Alright, let's actually move on to my leveling guide info that you guys keep eagerly asking for. I have been struggling to come up with new methods for leveling. I've been searching high and low, doing crazy ideas, lots of research, but nothing. Blizzard has nerfed just about every possible way of leveling outside of questing and dungeon finder. This involves, of course, the dungeon carry method being nerfed, the item stat squish, that made it to where you can't farm raids anymore for experience. This especially hurt the Karazhan farm, which went from level 74 to 81. Once again, that's the slowest leveling bracket, and we wanted anything we could do to get out of there. And then they also removed like the experience potions, those big ones that you could farm, except for the garrison potions in Worlds of Draenor, those are still in the game. And then they nerfed Refer a Friend. They're just really trying to push questing and dungeon finder. But anyways, so I'm trying to come up with a way of leveling quicker, just for you guys, and it's very challenging. One of the tests I did do was an alternate way of doing a dungeon carry method. What I would do is take off all the gear on my main character when I'm on the last boss, except for like a couple of items, and I'll get the last boss to maybe about 10%, maybe 5% health, somewhere in there. Then I'll make them disconnect from the game. And the idea is, if they're not in there, and my alt kills the boss, the alt theoretically should get all of the experience, including all of the dungeon completion bonus. It didn't work that way. Even after my druid, which took forever for him to disconnect out of the dungeon, once he left, I still only got about 5% of that dungeon completion bonus. So, even if they're tagged and they're not actually present in the dungeon, it won't work. I was really bummed because I was positive that was going to work. I was super excited to try it out. So my next idea was, okay, what if I actually make a twink? Like a Blood DK twink level 63 to carry my alt through a dungeon. Like stockades. It's like, let's say we make a new character and we just run through stockades from 15 all the way up to, 60. Sounds like a great idea. Blood DKs are good at soloing stuff. And if they're level 63, they're not really going to leech much experience off of the dungeon completion bonus. Like, it should still be more than a normal actual dungeon run with a group of 5 people. Well, because of the stat squish, even with all the best items and enchants, this was not possible. Level 63, I could barely solo one elite on my Blood DK, and it was not efficient. So I was like, okay, let's try level 65. We'll get him up a little bit higher. So he's about green with the mobs, in terms of looking at their levels, so it shouldn't be too bad. Nope, 65 wouldn't work. I'm like, alright, let's try it one more time. Level 67, they're just barely green mobs. If I level up any higher, they're going to be gray, and it'll probably be no experience for my alt. Nope, level 67 Blood DK still couldn't deal with the elites in a dungeon. It was depressing. It's because of the stat squish. Had I tried this before the stat squish, it guaranteed would have worked at level 63. Of course, we wouldn't need to, because we'd have the normal dungeon carry method anyways. So, those two ideas were my biggest ones for trying to get around this, and they failed. However, I do have some ideas that I'm still going to research. This kind of was inspired by BFA group questing. I never really tried group questing before in any expansion. I've always done solo questing. And turns out, people who were grouped up in BFA, who were leveling up on release night, hit 120 hours and hours before me. That's crazy. Hours. It turns out the experience from the mobs don't matter. It's all about just doing quests super fast. So, what I'm wanting to try is actually compare group questing in vanilla content versus solo questing. Like 1 to 30, how fast is it done compared between group and solo. And then I'd also like to test out group questing versus dungeon spam, which the person running the dungeons will have the battle standard to drop on every single last boss. So I'm really curious as to which one would level up quicker. This would be very interesting. So I'm going to be testing that out, and I plan on doing a video series like on each test. Should be about 3 videos, and definitely let you guys know on that. Now, if you guys have any great leveling methods that I don't know about, or something that you want me to test, please leave a comment down in the video below. I would definitely love to reference you when I do make this 1 to 120 leveling guide. So definitely share what you got. I would love to test them out. And even if it's the smallest, minute little thing that can help you level up quicker, I'm interested. Because at this point, all of the huge leveling methods no longer exist. They are done for, so now leveling fast is all going to be about adding up all of these tiny little leveling methods that, together make you level up quicker. Alright guys, that's all I got. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. If you want to see more content, hit that subscribe button. And if you would like to help directly support the channel and what we do, consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/jayburtonsemo. I'll have a link down in the description below. But as always, thank you guys for watching.